And we will give folks just a moment to come in. Hello, welcome to today's workshop. We'll get started here momentarily. And Carla, I'll just let you take it from here. I'm going to go off screen and mute, and you can just feel free to start in a few minutes when we have folks coming in.
Awesome. And can you just verify you can see my screen?
I can, and it's the full presentation, no notes. It looks great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome attendees. I just want to say we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. Make sure that everybody who signed up is able to attend. Carla, I'm just seeing it's 5 after the hour. I'd say let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you, Wing and Fix It Fair folks for having me here today, and welcome everyone. My name is Carla Martinez. I'm the Consumer Liaison for the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation. And our presentation today is Disaster Preparedness, a roadmap to protect your family and your wallet. Really, we're going to be going over some tips and tricks and how to kind of be prepared for a natural disaster. And really kind of what are some of the things you need to know about, recovery, and what you would need to know, and if you were to have issues with like your insurance company. So we'll go over that here. But first I want to start off by doing a disclosure here. And let's see. Please remember that any information offered in this workshop is strictly for educational purposes and should not be considered as legal advice or financial decision-making advice. Be relied upon as personal investment or financial planning advice. We do not endorse or recommend any person, product, or institution. So our mission is to protect Oregonians' access to fair insurance and financial products through education, regulation, and consumer assistance. So I will kind of go over some of the different units in our section and kind of particularly the work that our consumer advocates do. So we are part of the Department of Consumer and Business Services. As you can see here, there's several other agencies in our department, as well as Building Codes Division, OSHA, Oregon OSHA, Workers' Compensation Board, and the Workers' Compensation Division. So our office is a regulatory office as well as a consumer protection agency. And as you can see here, there's a lot of things, a lot of programs that we have regulatory authority over, such as state chartered banks and credit unions, check cashing, debt management services, financial and investment advisors, all things insurance related, mortgage industry, student loan servicing, pawn shops, payday lenders, securities, collection agencies, and consumer finance companies. our consumer advocacy unit is my favorite unit in our division. We really kind of help consumers with questions. We answer phones Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We assist folks in verifying that the people that they're working with are licensed folks here in Oregon. We also manage complaints. So Oregonians who are struggling to navigate their claim process or having issues with their insurance agent, company, or adjuster can reach out to our advocates and file a complaint. In 2022, our advocates helped nearly 14,000 Oregonians with their issues, and we resolved nearly almost 5,000 complaints that last year. So our website is www.dfr.oregon.gov, and our toll-free number is 888-877-4894. Our advocates, like I said, are available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we do have that website. You can access information and as well as email some of your thoughts or questions as well. So you can do that through our website. So the first thing we'll go over is, really kind of shopping for insurance and how to select an agent. This has been a hot topic lately in these last couple of years, with folks really struggling to kind of find a policy or a company that they're comfortable with or that meets their budget. So a couple of tips that folks need to be aware of is making sure that when they are working with someone, that the person that they're working with is licensed by our office. Insurance agents have to be licensed through our office, and they have to register their license through us. So if you have a doubt or a question of whether an agent is licensed, you can always reach out to us, and we can look up the license and make sure that they are legitimate. You want to work with someone who understands your needs, not just an agent who will try to sell you things, someone who understands kind of where you are in life, what your needs are, what your assets are, and really what your goal is. Interviewing your agent, making sure that they're a listener, kind of goes along those lines, is making sure that they understand your needs. And ask for referral, ask your friends and family to see who they're working with, and if it's someone that they've been with for a very long time. But again, making sure that that person is the right fit for you. Time any changes wisely. We do encourage folks to meet with their insurance company or agent regularly to make sure that their policies are being up to date, that any changes that you need to make with your policy, that those are done adequately and timely. And then understanding the difference between an agent and a broker. An agent usually works directly with one company, and a broker can be an agent of many different companies. But again, please make sure that you are working with the licensed individual, and you can check a license by going to our website, dfr.oregon.gov. Times have been different here in Oregon the last couple of years. We've had the wildfires, we've had some kind of winter storms, significant amount of rains here in Oregon. And we really want to take this opportunity to, educate folks around the importance of, planning, but as well as making sure that you are resilient and that you have a plan, right? So we're going to go ahead and talk about some things that can help you do that and help you prepare for that. And really kind of the focus is going to be around insurance and some of the things that we learned from, past experience, especially around the wildfires in 2020, where many folks really kind of struggled because they either weren't prepared or weren't adequately prepared, and around, particularly around insurance. So some of the things that we learned from 2020 and 2021 were many people were underinsured. Now, what does that word underinsured mean? Really what that means is that folks didn't have the adequate coverage to repair or replace their home back to what they had previously. So, a couple things could have happened. Folks could have really not had their reviews, they could have made some changes to their home, or maybe some upgrades or remodels that would have caused them to have that kind of gap in coverage. But really, the focus and kind of the lesson learned there is making sure that folks are connecting with their insurance company, connecting with their insurance agent, and really doing that annual review. If folks can't do it annually, we do really recommend folks do it at least every couple of years, so that their insurance policies, are up to date. Most insurance policies will have inflation coverage, which will increase the amount of the policy by just a little bit, but may not be enough, may not be significant enough to really kind of put the home back to where you were, rebuild the home back to how you had it. So again, really encouraging folks to do that. The other thing that really kind of complicated things for folks during the claims process was a lack of inventory. What that means is folks were not prepared to, create that inventory list that insurers are going to ask for replacement of your personal items. So we do have some really good information on our website. You can go to our website, again, dfr.oregon.gov, go to our disaster preparedness button. It's a red button. If you click on that, you can go to the wildfire page, and it'll actually have some good tools there you can use to do a home inventory. But, the process can be really simple as taking your cell phone and really kind of walking around your house, taking videos and, pictures of specific, higher valued items. But having that home inventory is really going to save you a lot of stress and money. So we really encourage that. The other thing that we learned was lack of knowledge of needed to use their insurance and access available resources. So a lot of times, we understand that when something like this devastating, thing happens, is folks are really kind of in a fight or flight. They are really just looking at trying to figure out where they're going to have a safe place to stay, food, shelter, clothes, the necessities. So they don't really think about, how do I seek shelter? Maybe what are some of my insurance benefits? If you have insurance, there's certain policy benefits like additional living expense that will provide coverage for you for shelter, food, and emergency needs, such as like emergency clothes and personal hygiene things. So insurers can provide access to funds, immediate funds, for you to be able to do that. So a lot of times folks didn't realize that they had this and were seeking, assistance from like the Red Cross or FEMA and using shelters. And so that's not necessarily, a need that someone who is insured would need to use. So really kind of knowing ahead of time what your available policy benefits are and how to access those resources. The other big thing that we notice, and we're doing a lot more education around this, is the lack of awareness of DFR advocates. A lot of times, we know that folks don't know that we are here to help and that the help is free. So we really encourage folks, again, to include in the plan, resources that folks can access if they do, run into issues during the recovery process, and having the advocates toll-free number available in case they need our help. Like I mentioned, that the help is free. And our advocates are folks who are subject matter experts who can really help people navigate that claim process and answer complex insurance questions. A lot of our folks have expert knowledge. I mean, a lot of them come from different parts of insurance industry. Some of them were claim adjusters, underwriters, agents. So you're going to talk to someone who knows what they are talking about, and someone who can help you really kind of navigate that complex process of having to figure out, where you need to do things, what your responsibilities are as an insured person, or what the responsibilities are as from the insurance company. And then really kind of the biggest lesson learned is many people regretted not being more prepared. So taking the time to really kind of do that with your family, participating in classes like this. I know that there's lots of resources. The Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office has a program that helps people prepare. And all of those resources are noted on our website, really kind of taking that time to get familiar with those. So we do talk about a disaster preparedness plan, and what does that include? I think the first part of being disaster ready is understanding that, disasters can happen to you. I think a lot of times, we tend to think, well, that's just not going to really is a reality for me. Is this really going to happen to me? And then we kind of tend to put things off because just from the basic feeling of maybe that's not really going to happen, or I'm not going to experience that. So really kind of understanding how that disaster can happen to you, setting your mind up for, really what should you be doing to prepare. Assess and mitigate hazards where you live, depending on the area that you live. If you're more in the rural community, out more in rural communities or urban communities, depending on where you live, you might want to kind of look and see what some of the hazards or potential hazards could be, and kind of set yourself up for, or prepare yourself for, mitigating those hazards by clearing brush, for example, or, maybe doing some fire hardening, or making sure that you, that you try to at least be the least vulnerable as you can. And then really kind of reviewing and understanding your insurance coverage. That's a really important one. A lot of times when people are kind of in the, in that position where you are having to recover, understanding your policy is a really powerful tool, because you can help yourself by really kind of navigating that process more smoothly. So really kind of taking the time to, again, reviewing your insurance policy with your agents, jotting some questions down for them, and really understanding what your benefits are. Really kind of, honing in on the creating a home inventory, because that's really going to help you during the recovery process. And then getting your go bag ready and financial documents ready. So on our website, we do have a disaster preparedness checklist that you can access that will tell you, give you some ideas of what types of documents you may want to have ready and stored, maybe in a thumb drive, or whichever way you feel is more comfortable. If you want to use your phone, your iCloud, or the cloud system to store your information, whatever you're comfortable with. But there are certain documents that you want to make sure that you have that would be a little harder to recover if they were lost. Anything that's going to be, identifying you as a person, such as your birth certificate, social security card, some documents for your medical, health insurance, mortgage paperwork, any sort of insurance policies you may have. So those are the type of things you want to make sure that you have in your go bag or your financial backpack. And then really understanding the claim process and what to do after a disaster. It does take a little bit of time and patience, and, to really kind of understand what it is, the steps you have to take, and kind of what your responsibilities are. Always feel free to reach out to our office if you have any doubts or questions about what to do. And our advocates are really good about helping people walk through that process. And again, just reiterating that disasters can happen to you. The risk is real. I know we've talked lots about, earthquake insurance these last couple of years, as well as, preparing for wildfires. We've had some pretty severe rain and flooding in some areas of Oregon. Winters are getting longer. So really just kind of having that mindset of what could you be doing to prepare yourself and your family. But also taking practical steps to reducing the risk of physical and financial harm, right? So what could you be doing to your home to make it more resistant to natural disasters? And then also financially, using insurance as a financial resiliency tool and a recovery tool to make sure that you get back to where you were before. So assessing and mitigating hazards where you live. Consider the hazards that you face and assess your risk. As I mentioned on our website, we do have some resources that you can utilize. And as you can see here, if you want to use your phone to scan the codes there, OSFM, Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office, has some really good information about how you can do that. So depending on the area that you live, you may be, more susceptible to certain types of risks than other folks living in the important, more metro areas. So really kind of utilizing those resources to assess what the damages are and what kind of steps you can take to mitigate. Some of the things may include inspecting and trimming trees close to your home, create defensible space. So I know that OSFM has a program, folks can do that. Home hardening as well is another one. And again, OSFM has lots of good information around that. Systemic retrofitting your home for earthquakes, inspecting your roof, gutters, foundation, and siding, really kind of making sure that you do your maintenance, home maintenance diligently, so that those roof and gutters, the debris on those we've heard, from the Oregon State Fire Marshals, are really kind of high risk for propensity to catch the little sparks that fly around when wildfires happen. So OSFM, Oregon State Fire Marshal's office is a really good resource, and I encourage folks to visit their website as well. So reviewing and understanding your insurance coverage, start by reading your declarations page. As I mentioned earlier, really kind of maybe putting together some questions for your insurance agent, meeting with your insurance agent regularly, or company for that matter. If you go through, if you don't have an agent and you go just straight, through an insurance company, kind of the same thing, making sure that you call them and follow up with them on questions that you may have. And then of course, if you are a renter and don't own your home, making sure that you have adequate insurance to protect your personal belongings, such as renter's insurance. It's affordable and provides really good benefits, as well as, additional living expenses like a homeowner's policy would. So if you scan the code there on the bottom right, DFR's webpage on renter's insurance, you can find that information there. So really quickly, we'll go over some of the main coverages in your homeowner's insurance policy. So as you can see here, dwelling coverage would be your coverage A, and that really is going to help you to repair, rebuild your home. Ask your agent about extended replacement costs and see if that's an option for you. And then other structures, coverage B is going to include coverage for your fences, sheds, your shops, and gazebos. So anything that's not attached to the home, that you're typically going to have about 10% of coverage from your coverage A to replace those things, such as, the sheds and shops or fences that are not attached. Coverage C, which is your personal property and contents coverage. That is the piece that's really important to, that's where we talk about your home inventory, and the importance of having a home inventory is because when you're going to access, that limit or that benefit, insurance companies will ask you for that inventory. So considering the value of your personal possessions, and then really paying close attention to things of high value, such as jewelry, electronic equipment, or guns, because those typically will have limited coverage. So you want to make sure that if you have above and beyond what your policy limit is, that you talk to your agent about additional coverage for those specific higher valued items. Additional living expense is coverage D, and that's going to provide that access to, those funds to pay for hotel, meal reimbursements, and expenses while your home is being rebuilt or repaired. And this coverage is above and beyond what your normal costs of living are. So, it's above the limit that you would have spent, your normal expenses are. So, but that is a coverage that really kind of comes in handy, for folks who have to evacuate or are in a unexpected, disaster, and really kind of have to seek that shelter and trying to figure out how they're going to be safe and secure. I think, for most folks, really kind of knowing that benefit is available will help really kind of lessen that stress, the initial stress of figuring out, what the resources are that are available to you. And then reviewing your policy for other things that may come up that are really important as well, such as debris removal. a lot of times, folks have a very limited coverage in their policy, some as low as $500 to do debris removal after a loss. And as you folks can imagine that, debris removal after a disaster may be a significant financial burden. So really kind of paying close attention to your policy limits and making sure that debris removal is something that, that you understand what your contract says. And then of course, rebuilding time as well. As you may have heard, folks who did experience, the wildfire disasters have had really a kind of a rougher time rebuilding than maybe a single loss would, only because those areas, there's lots of homes that have been damaged at one time. We've heard of, contractor shortage or material shortage. And so that really kind of, may delay the process. Unfortunately, during this time, we did go through a pandemic as well. And so things like that could potentially happen where, it kind of really slows things down for the policyholder to rebuild. So really kind of paying attention to, your contract language around the rebuild time for your policy, and then as well as where the location may be rebuilt. So again, as I mentioned, and I won't spend too much time on this, but the home inventory is really important. If you have your phone with you, you can scan the code there on the bottom right to access some of those tools I was talking about on our webpage to really help you build that home inventory. But the main idea here is to make sure that you capture what was in your home, like your personal belongings, so that you have something to be able to use for that recovery process after a loss. So to get your go bag ready, we talk about, making sure that you have 2 weeks supply of food, water, some cash, warm clothes, your prescription, and then of course any pet supplies you may need for your lovely pets. You can also visit ready.gov, kitorready.gov, and there's a list of things that you can, you can access to help you do that, get your go bag ready. So again, we talk about those financial documents and the importance of making sure that you have those available after a loss, and that's really going to be important to your recovery. Passports, driver's license, social security cards, as well as any birth certificates, any other legal paper documents that you need, insurance policies, titles, registration for, some of your items. I know folks lost, boats, RVs, motorcycles, and things like that. So you want to make sure that you have copies of the titles and registrations to those. Your loan and mortgage documents, as well as property tax documents, maybe tax returns, wills, medical directives, power of attorneys. And then of course, let's not forget about our lovely pets and vet records, pet licenses, microchip information, stuff like that. And then of course, how to respond after a disaster. You want to make sure that you have a copy of your policy available. So by having that financial backpack ready to go, you can do that. Your first thing you'll want to do is contact your insurance company after you're safe and secured. And then of course, mitigating damage from any further damage. So making sure that you review your policyholder responsibility section in your policy. Take pictures, don't dispose of anything, and then making sure that you have receipts for any lodging, food, plywood, anything that it has come out of your pocket for either mitigating or recovering after your loss. And then really after the disaster, you want to make sure that you review the damage. It'll depend on whether an agent or the company will send an adjuster out there immediately. Sometimes they'll work with you on getting a mitigation company out that can do kind of that initial assessment. I know with COVID, there was some restrictions around sending people out. So preparing an initial estimate for you, they may provide advance payments, as I mentioned earlier. Additional payments may be made after you provide receipts for items you've replaced or repaired. And then of course, payments for structural damage, including your lien holders. So any payments, if you have additional interests or insured interests in your home, like a mortgage holder, then those payments will be issued in the name of both parties for the structural damage of the home. Getting help and how to avoid scams. We have a really good little pamphlet on our website around disaster scams, and we did that in collaboration with the Department of Justice as well as the Construction Contractors Board. But some of the things you can do to kind of keep yourself out of trouble there is continue to update your home inventory and communicate with your insurance company. You can contact RDFR advocates if you have questions or concerns. And then also be aware of rebuild or repair scams, making sure that you are working with the licensed contractor. You can check their licenses by going to the CCB website, www.oregon.gov/CCB, or you can call their phone number. I believe it's toll free 503-378-4621. And you can also use the same concept as when you're shopping for an agent to really kind of shop for a contractor, making sure they're licensed, making sure they're reputable. And you can also, like I said, give CCB a call to see if they've had any, violations or any enforcement actions. And then of course, understanding how you have your contract with your contractor is really important as well. And the CCB can really walk you through that. So tips for settling your claim process: you need to ask for clarification when you need it from the claim adjuster or the company. Review your extended replacement cost coverage. As I mentioned earlier, that's part of understanding what your policy limits are and your benefits are. Keep really good notes of the process or how your workings with your claim adjuster or company. Make sure you get the really important things in writing. So if they promised you something or they told you they were going to do something, making sure that you have that in writing. And then staying organized. So creating a folder or some sort of kind of itemized list of things of, the process that you've already been through or going to go through with your company is going to really help making sure that that claim gets moving along pretty smoothly. And then, of course, if you do need our help, that really will help the advocate kind of figure out where you're at with your process as well. Some more tips here on how to settle your claims issues is, again, just really talking to your insurance company and agent or adjuster. If you still have questions, feel free to contact our advocacy team. And then, of course, they can walk you either through the process, or if a complaint needs to be filed, they can assist or tell you how to do that. And then of course, really kind of letting us help or make that, at least at a minimum, make that assessment as to whether, there potentially could be an issue that we can help with before you decide to go take any legal action or any civil action, because that could really save you a lot of money. And then here are some resources you can access. Again, if you go to our website, you'll see a little red button there on the top. It says disaster. Click on that and it'll take you to our disasters page that you can see here. And then on the left-hand side column, you'll see different options. If you click on wildfire, it'll be wildfire specific resources, and you can access all these other resources as well on there. But another good one, Oregon Office of Emergency Management. They have really good information specifically around, resources and government programs that can help people with the recovery process. And then FEMA also has some good, ready.gov is their website. I know if, for flood, you can go to floodsmart.gov program there and kind of be maybe flood disaster ready. And then of course, I know CFPB has really good information. So accessing these information when you're creating that plan and understanding what your resources are is really going to be very beneficial to your recovery process. We do ask that you follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and we do have a YouTube page that we will periodically publish videos on there. So I encourage folks to kind of subscribe to that and look at that if you have time. But really just want to thank you folks today for giving me the opportunity to present this information. Our contact information, I'll kind of leave it up here on the screen for a little bit. Our consumer advocates phone number there on the top, our email, you feel free to email us if you need to, as well as visiting our website. And again, thanks to Wing and Fix It Fair folks.
Thank you, Carla. And if folks have questions, they can put them in the chat. We'll hang out here for a few minutes in case people have questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for these resources today. And a recording of this will be up on our YouTube as well. If you Google Fix It Fair Portland, you can find all of our resources on our website. Oh, and maybe, I think I have the chat turned off. My apologies. If you have questions, you can now chat with Carla. I'm so sorry. I just noticed that. Okay, well, I think that wraps us up. Thank you again so much for presenting today. Really great resources.
Thank you all, and hope to see you in the future with future presentations.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.